Welcome to the Be Student Podcast, and thank you for joining me. So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. We launched this podcast a few months ago, and I want to just check in with our audience. I brought my main man with me today. Axel's with me. He sometimes comes with me to the office. He's very social. We thought it'd be fun to pick up some panting on the podcast mic today. Axel loves people, so he's having a great time here at the studio today. But I wanted to first and foremost say thank you. We've built a community through this podcast that I just can't even believe. I want to say thank you to our partners at Hi Hello Labs who've just enabled us to do stuff I never thought we could do. And I want to say thank you to our team at the Chamber and our board at the Chamber who believe wholeheartedly in the way we're able to communicate and reach a huge audience with this podcast. We found out this week that we are in the top 136 podcasts in Brazil and France this week, which I can't even believe. And in podcast world, that means that we did what's called charting. I don't know if Axe is going to stay up here with me or not, but he's pretty cuddly right now. So charting in 2 other countries besides America. We charted in America to start. And we're talking about something I'm super passionate about, which is entrepreneurship. I am an entrepreneur. I was raised by entrepreneurial parents, and my parents weren't the kind of entrepreneurs that owned grocery stores or did some corner thing. Are you going to jump down now? He'll come back and visit us later. My parents were entrepreneurs in the fields that they worked in, and it was interesting to reflect on the fullness of their lives. They've both passed now, and think about the ways in which they were entrepreneurial and how that's informed the lens through which I see the entire world. So my father was a really gifted musician. He had perfect pitch. He came from parents who were music educators and concert pianists. And actually, my grandfather, his dad, wrote the famous Christmas song, "All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth," when my dad was in first grade and lost his 2 front teeth at Christmas. So they were serious musicians in their own right. My dad was an incredibly gifted musician who played probably 10 instruments and was himself a symphony conductor. But he left a very cozy and pedigreed role at the University of Maryland in 1980 to come to Central Florida and start from scratch the marching band program and the whole band program at UCF. And when we got here, there were no people enrolled in marching band. There were no uniforms for the marching band. There was no resources for the marching band. And I love the story of my dad going through the records, the admission records of the new students at UCF, finding out which ones had been in band in high school. And they reached out to them and said, "Would you like to be in this upstart ragtag marching band program that we're starting?" Well, as a little girl, I used to sit with the University of Maryland marching band that had these amazing wool uniforms and beautiful plumes on their hats. And it was a very established program. And within a year, my parents had put together, because they would do this at my kitchen counter, a whole, I think it was an 80-person marching band. And they went out in white T-shirts and jeans because there wasn't any money for their uniforms. This was so startup at that time. And they went out and they did a marching band routine at the Citrus Bowl at UCF's halftime in 1980. And I watched them say to each other, "Well, there's no fight song here, so let's go ahead and write one." So my parents wrote the UCF fight song, the lyric "Charge Onto the Field." My mother wrote all the lyrics for that fight song because they didn't have one, and they just invented one. And that's actually what entrepreneurs do every single day with limited resources and with no set pattern of this is how we did it before, no long-range strategic plan with tons and tons of resources. They just pull things out of the ground and slap it together and go. I then watched my mother be entrepreneurial when she ran for office for the first time. She ran for Orange County School Board back in 1986. And she didn't have a budget. She didn't have a huge list of campaign donors. And we were hand silk screening her campaign T-shirts in our garage. And so there was just a sense of you just pitch in and use these resources and cobble things together to bring into life the vision that you have that you want to see. And I think it's not an accident that I went into the world of entrepreneurship with eyes wide open about how unglamorous it can be. I think a lot of people think being an entrepreneur is glamorous because you get to control your own schedule. And actually, that schedule very much controls you, as does the lack of resources and as does the lack of knowledge and history of what you're doing. But it is a deeply rewarding thing to step back and watch now the UCF marching band, all with their beautiful military uniforms that actually have my dad's monogram in the shoulder, and to watch a part of the courthouse in Orange County being named for my late mother, having served 30 years in elected service here. So my entrepreneurship journey is that I've always done something entrepreneurial, whether it was in a pure startup environment or whether it was just bringing something new into existence in an incumbent setting. You know, when I worked for a Fortune 50 pharmaceutical company out of college, I developed something that hadn't existed before, and that was a way to test and care for people with HIV infection inside Florida's prison system. And that was something that we were able to not only make a huge impact on the long-term health consequences for persons infected with HIV, but we were able to radically transform the public health risks for the Department of Corrections and lower the burden on the Florida taxpayer for caring for these inmates. We were then able to roll out this protocol across the country. So I had the ability to do something from a startup perspective, even in this big, heavy machinery of a large multinational company. And then I think there's nothing more entrepreneurial than running political campaigns, which I did for years when I stayed home with my family. And then I started a tennis team from scratch. And I started a custom cookie business in London from scratch when my family and I relocated to London. That is probably my starter pack of London-based entrepreneurship. I was then able to go work at a consulting firm that looked at the real problem of gender diversity on boards of directors and what was called FTSE 500 companies. That's the same thing as our stock exchange here, or our fortune measurement. So these companies were heavily gender unbalanced, and we know that when teams have both genders on them, they perform better in business. At that time, the EU was using a heavy hand with England that resulted probably in Brexit. But that heavy hand said, you're going to gender balance these boards or we're going to make you do it. And so the UK said, no, we're going to take care of this ourselves. And we created a commercial solution to help businesses get ready or get the women in their pipeline ready for these executive roles or board level roles that would help them execute on this mandate to achieve better business results with gender balanced boards. I then left that role and helped two friends start a swimwear company. And the swimwear company was a high-end swimwear company for tweens, so kids who were about 8 to 12, 8 to 14. And we wanted the fabric to be really high quality, not, with due respect to Old Navy, not something you wear for a month and then throw away and goes in the landfill or fades into something yellow or pills or the threads fall out. We wanted it to last for that European ethic, which is as long as it possibly can. Wear it a lot, buy something high quality, keep it for a while. And we partnered with an Italian company that made this gorgeous jersey fabric that didn't pill or fade. And then it was UV protective to the Australian standard, which is the highest in the world. We then marketed that swimwear that was designed to appeal to young people, to incentivize them to wear full coverage swimwear so they wouldn't get skin damage. And we were just thinking about little redheaded kids getting sunburned and kids getting too much sun exposure and parents having to reapply sunscreen on their vacations every hour, and what a drag that was. Now, when a kid is little, you can zip them up into a cute little suit with a lobster on it and they'll wear that around the beach and the parent doesn't have much to worry about. But when they turn around 6 or 8, you try to put that kid in a lobster suit, there's no way they're going to say yes. So we developed these really cool prints and colors and made these mix and match pieces to try to get the child to be excited about wearing full coverage swimwear so the parents could have a nice relaxing vacation and not worry about sunburns or skin cancer risk. Well, I've always believed in trying to do the most brand building thing you can do when you start something. Get people to take you seriously. How do you close that gravitas gap on a brand new brand? And so I thought, well, the way we want to do this in London is we want to get Harrods to carry our swimwear. Harrods is this iconic department store that's so iconic. It's really a tourist destination in London. And the whole world comes to Harrods to experience new products and learn about new trends. And so I thought we need to be in Harrods. And we were successful in wearing down the buyer at Harrods to the point where we knew who she was. We communicated with her a lot. And then one day we had this fantastic opportunity to do what I love to do in sales, which is to help the potential customer see that they have a problem that only you can solve. And we knew we had to stand out in the field of all the other swimwear companies that wanted Harrods to carry them. And I said, this is our great opportunity. The newspaper that morning in London had run a story about how scandalous it was that Harrods was carrying leopard print bikinis from Elizabeth Hurley's children's swimwear line. And, I looked at the clock and it was about 8:30 in the morning and I thought, this is the perfect time to call this buyer. She's still sipping on her coffee. She's still checking over her email. She's disarmed. We need to get in there and call her and let her know this problem exists. So I scanned the copy of the newspaper article and I emailed it to her. And I called her shortly after emailing this article to her. And I said, I'm sure you've seen the newspaper. And one of the things I was trained early on in my pharmaceutical sales career is that when you have to tell someone who has a medical degree and you don't have a medical degree, something they don't know, you always lead with, as I'm sure you know. So I called this buyer and I said, I'm sure you've seen the newspaper today calling out Harrods for having leopard print bikinis for toddlers. She said, no, I haven't seen it. I said, well, it's in your inbox. I just scanned it to you. And the good news is we sell full coverage swimwear. You all could have it on the shop floor by tomorrow. And we could be doing a press release saying that Harrods carries everything from low coverage to full coverage swim items for children. And she rolled her eyes and kind of grunted and said, fine, you can bring over a collection on consignment tomorrow. I'm not buying it, but you can bring it over on consignment and give it a try. So that collection was on the shop floor immediately and it sold out in 2 weeks. And they said, okay, this round, we're going to buy. We want to partner with you. So in an out-of-body experience, the next thing I know, I'm in Harrods and our swimwear is hanging next to Vilebrequin. It's hanging next to the Montclair ski wear in the children's department. And it just felt unbelievable. But it was my parents' entrepreneurship that taught me that you've got to scan the environment and look for the available opportunities and resources because they're just not going to be handed to you as an entrepreneur. From that moment, we scaled the company into 14 countries around the world, primarily because our swimwear became appealing to Arab families who wanted modesty in their swimwear for their children. So that led me to the UAE and to Dubai, and we were in outlets all around the world with the Four Seasons Hotel, and we became registered as a vendor with Disney at their Aulani Resort in Hawaii. So it was an incredible entrepreneurial journey moving into that piece as well. Now I'm at the Chamber of Commerce in Winter Park, and we've been incredibly entrepreneurial. This podcast itself is a tribute to entrepreneurship, and it really is about exploring the chromosomes that are on the entrepreneurial DNA. What is it that makes someone successful in these entrepreneurial ventures, whether they're starting your own company or starting a new line of something or just starting something. And so this podcast has been this glorious exploration of the values, the experiences, the secrets, the leveling up moments that have enabled people to go way past anything they thought they could have achieved. What's been really interesting is the things that have filtered through that are in common from episode to episode. We always hear about moms on these podcasts. And I think it's interesting. We've heard about moms as nudgers, and we've heard about moms as the trapeze safety net. You can always come home if you try this and it screws up. And I think it's so interesting because I am a mom. I'm a dog mom, but I'm also a mom to 2 grown adults. And it's interesting to see what a critical role moms can play as encouragers and safety nets. We've also heard a lot about the power of role modeling and mentorship. And we know that's important, particularly for underserved populations, particularly for women looking to go to that highest possible level in the world of business. But we've seen people use resources and look around for resources they never thought they had. For us to be delivering this podcast on this level means that we were looking around for the right resource for a long time. We've talked about having a podcast for at least 6 years. And it never felt right in any of the other models that we looked at before. And we knew when we saw it that the partners we have here in Hi Hello Labs were the right ones for us to move this idea forward, both with the quality that we wanted, the production value, and the partners they had to help us make this special. We have loved bringing you stories of the extraordinary people that are in our network right here, not just in the 9 square miles of Winter Park, but now we're building a world of opportunity through the global network that we're connecting with these stories. We want what's great about Winter Park to shine in these stories, but we also want people who haven't been to Winter Park to want to know more about it and what makes it so special. Clearly, if you follow our podcast, which we hope you do, and that you subscribe to it and like and share it as well, that you'll see that the people we're in conversation with are extraordinary and they're doing extraordinary things. As I think about what makes something special for me, I connect always to the values that I hold dear. And I was really fortunate when I went back to work after taking a 13-year career pause that I got to do an exercise where I got to evaluate on a sheet of paper a whole bunch of values that were listed there. We were asked to circle all the values that resonated with us and then to rank our top 5. When I did my top 5 ranking, I was really surprised at what emerged. As a young woman, I would have put the things that I thought my mom would have wanted me to put down there: integrity and hard work and being fair and honest. And of course, those are all bedrock values that are integral to how I do business and how I live. But the things that I felt like I really cherished and the ones that I felt like made me different were humor, loyalty, and courage. And as we have these conversations, it's so much fun to really explore those values through the lens of these conversations and to hopefully help people connect to the values that they have that might not be the ones they thought they'd circle on a sheet that had a list of values, and how knowing what some of those are will help them level up in their business practice or their personal and professional growth. I have absolutely loved doing this. And this week, as I said, we experienced milestones we didn't think we could hit in a year. And we are so excited to be bringing everybody along on this conversation. It was really fun to have Axel with me today and to just take a moment to share what I think makes this whole journey so special. It's you engaging with us. It's you sharing the comments. It's you telling me what resonated, whether it's how to navigate an intergenerational office or whether it's using resources around you to help you sell better or influence better. Maybe it's learning more about what is emotional intelligence and how we use it. I'm really fascinated about these things that usually fit under the heading of what we call soft skills. Soft skills we know are in short supply in our talent pool and our workforce. And that's a little concerning because as we move forward into the AI revolution, the things that are going to be automated will be automated. And what remains is that connection to people, that ability to collaborate, that ability to read the room, to influence, to communicate effectively, to manage time well, to prioritize well, to effectively use resources and relationships. And that's what you can count on us from count on us for going forward in this exploration of the B side of people. We want to get at the B side so we can understand what that magic soft skill is that they've used to help be influential or change making or disruptive. And we're so excited to be on this journey with you. Thanks for investing your time in this podcast. Thanks again to all of our partners. We look forward to bringing you more of this content. You know, we started out doing this once a month, and we've already increased the frequency of it because that's what you've asked for. We're so excited to go to the next level. And thanks for being part of the journey of the Be Student Podcast.